Welcome to Healthy and Wealthy Conversations, where we discuss everything that leads to health and wellness for your whole spirit, soul, mind, and body. Welcome to another episode of Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest we have Marcela Onyx. Let's get this show started. According to Marcela Onyx's website, she helps people heal from past traumas, understand life's lessons, and unlock their inner power and abundance. Asked her, what journey did she go on to start this pathway of helping people live better lives?
Since I was a child, I always felt that I grew up with a sense of not knowing where to belong. And I was absolutely right, because my life ended up, turning to bring me to the UK. And since I moved here and have met my husband, I realized that he is exactly where I belong. This is where my soul was searching for. And within that, it was a kind of bringing a family reunion from other life. Because my husband and I, we got to learn that we have been soulmates in other lives. And his kids has been raised by, his first wife. And that's how we met. 2 months after she passed away. So I raised my boys as being, the mom that they got to know. They was only 1.5 and 3.5. So that's when you also learn about unconditional love. And you start healing, that journey to try to understand, okay, who I was in the past, who I am becoming, because it was very unusual. I was working, I had everything, successful career, friends, good money, a wonderful family, love my culture, but I didn't have love. And when I have met my husband, his kids was needing exactly that. It was a family that was broken and really needed my love and my unconditional love. And as soon as I met my husband, it was like we always belonged together. So I trained my best friend, left on the company where I was working for, and in less than a month, my whole life have risen into 2 suitcases and I moved to the UK. So basically from being a successful career-driven woman, I woke up in another country, speaking a different language and need to change nappies. A total shock of reality and understanding the trauma that the kids have been through too. Time passed and then I start building my career again and I go into the loop, being successful. Life was great until after 12 years with my husband, he had a sudden heart attack. So then I was living the reality of being a widow and having 2 children to look after, and the whole world, it just has changed completely for me, because I had to go through a journey where I have totally lost myself, even though I had a huge background in spiritual and personal development. At that time, I was already a healer. None of that knowledge has done any good for me, because I was living that moment. I was living to the pain. I was focused on the lack of what I didn't have anymore, which was the love of my beloved, which was everything that we represent for each other. So it took a few years until through that journey, I recognized that I wanted to feel awakened again to life, to love, to relationships. And it was actually the retreat during the lockdown, which I have met one of the mentors that I had, which have basically in me have blossomed that wish to study to be a sexologist. And after that, I studied to be a medical intuitive therapist. And I had to work as part of my long assignments, work with all my traumas. I had to basically think on my trauma tree, revisit every single episode of my life. And I realized that I got really good within that, being able to connect with people in the healing process. So for example, you come to me in a session, sometimes you don't even say much. I can literally just connect with you, and I can feel where we need to go in the session. I can feel where the blockage may be based on what you told me that has been the main problem you'd like to sort on that session. And the reason why I call myself Love and Transformational Healer, because it's exactly what my sessions also does. It's not what my life has been on my journey, but what my session does to people. I know my session is coming to an end, and it's usually around 2 hours when I can see the smile, when I know my clients have learned their lessons. They understood why perhaps they have been manifesting some emotional blockage or even, disease within their body. They was able to revisit this life or other lives or understand if there was any ancestor link within their trauma or the blockage. And why the relationship? Because I don't consider myself someone that only deals with relationship related to the love. The trauma can be a relationship with anything. It can be a relationship with money. It can be a relationship with our child, a relationship with our parents, of course, our loved ones, a relationship even with procrastination, our lack of confidence. So the transformation happens when we actually have the understanding, we make the peace with that part of us that we felt so disconnected for so long. And that's where what I like to say is the lasting results can really happen. It's not going to be just for affirmations. It's not going to be just rewriting your story. Because these bring a result. Yes, it does. I have been there. But it's a very, very short space, and suddenly life will test you again. And because you haven't learned the lesson, you will go back to that stage of where you was.
The next question I asked Marcela is, when did she know she had the tools to help herself and others to thrive in life?
So when I start studying Reiki, and the first person I have worked with, she was someone that used to give me massage on a gym. And all the time she would see me, she always would say, "Oh my God, let me give you a hug. No, you bring me so, this so beautiful energy. Every time I see you, you just light my day." And I was like, "Oh my God, is she a lesbian?" And when I said I was learning Reiki, she said, "Could you please try on me?" I said, "Yes, of course." She was basically the first person I have exchanged that was not from my classroom. And as soon as we started working and I touched her, I realized that I could see her past life. I had this vision that she was my sister. And the reason why I never liked to see her at the gym with her uniform, that she had the black and a white, I didn't like to see her wearing black, was because her husband had died in that specific life that had access. So she started to use only black dresses, was a Victorian time. And within that pain and that grief, she actually came in to live with me and my husband. So I had access to that, and I have explained it to her. And then she said, "I knew it. I knew it that we had this beautiful link." And I was like, "Oh my God, your soul recognized mine. How beautiful is that?" So I become to understanding that sometimes only if it was relevant to the client, while I was giving them the healing, maybe I would have access to something that has happened in another life or in this life. So this is exactly where things had started for me. And of course, when I have done my medical intuitive, I was able to actually increase, I would say, my level of connection with the client, the connection with the energy. Yeah.
Next question I asked Marcela is, why is it important for people to release past traumas and baggage? Not only did she answer this question, she also gave some insight on what people can do to begin to thrive in life.
What I have realized, and that's not just my journey, I'm trying to answer in a way that can serve everybody and people can relate to that. So we always are trying to search for something. Yeah, the majority of us, we are seekers. Sometimes we don't even know what we're searching for, but our soul knows, and our soul knows better than us. So what happened is when we go through a situation of a trauma, yeah, in the reality, the trauma is going to be any situation that happened to us totally unexpected, that we was not prepared to deal with that situation. And it can be something extremely silly, like, for example, you are an investor and then suddenly you lose a considerable amount of money. Even though you have trained and you prepared yourself that investment could be a risk, it was a huge loss. So that was a trauma for you. You was not expecting that huge loss. Yeah, that caused an emotional imbalance. It caused an emotional blockage within the mind too, the lack of confidence. Yeah. So within that, what can happen, and this is specifically a situation related to investment, you're going to start thinking, I'm not good enough anymore. I have failed my family. I have failed myself. So many things can happen and can build up from one specific event that you was not prepared to deal with, that you didn't have the tools to deal with, that you haven't understood the lessons. And yes, you can ask me, what would be the lesson related to something related to specifically financial loss when you are investing? Yes, you know there is risks there. Yes, you know, but you was not expecting to lose that huge amount of money. Yeah, perhaps you had already a lifestyle that was going around that type of investment and returns, and then suddenly you don't have that. So what you're going to do? You can literally perhaps accept that, okay, something's happening now that I am out of control. And if I am out of control and I'll carry on building those thoughts, it's going to create anxiety, frustration, depression, yeah, and many other feelings. But the reality is, what has happened is at that stage, you started to disconnect from your inner wisdom, inner balance, for your own capacity to be able to think clear and take the right decisions. Because from that stage, you're looking for who to blame, and even if it's yourself. And the majority of the time, for some reason, is God. And I know because I also have been there. And I have to find my peace, and I have to understand that definitely God knew better what he was doing. And in the reality, sometimes is we can be selfish when we start looking for someone to blame, even if it's God. Because what we're doing is we are cutting any responsibility that we may take. We are denying that there is an opportunity to grow, that what is really happening is a situation that the universe somehow has orchestrated for you be able to move on a little bit more on your evolution as a human being, as a spiritual being. Because if everything stays as is, and life is going to be always just being able to afford everything that you want and have everything that you desire, where is the growth? So what I have learned, even from my situation, is yes, go through trauma is completely uncomfortable. It can cause pain. We don't want to feel pain. The last thing that we want is be hurted. What all of us want. We want to be heard, to be seen, to be understood. But what if we can understand ourselves? We can look into ourselves in the mirror. We can look into our own eyes in the mirror and see ourselves through the eyes of our soul. If we cannot have the compassion, the understanding, that love for ourselves, and all we want is expect that someone would just give us the hand and just will say, yes, I will support you. It's not your fault. Let me sort this out for you. Yes, we love when we are, a kid and our Our parents can do that for us and take that pain away. But there is times that we need to understand what is really happening here now. For example, is it my inner child that is stepping in, that is feeling injustice, is feeling that wants to be heard, to be seen, to be acknowledged, to receive a hug? Or is the adult part of myself that needs to comfort that inner child and say, I hear you, I feel you, I acknowledge you, and I'm capable to look after you. I am capable to look after us. And give yourself that beautiful hug, and just imagine that you are also giving that hug to your inner self, to your inner child. Give that comfort that he's seeking, she's seeking. And as we do that, we allow ourselves to start thinking a little bit more clear, because we are building that reconnection with ourselves, with our souls, with God that is within us, with the divine, whoever you want to call. Who do you believe that gives you the strength when you really need? Because when we come into a stage that sometimes we lose everything and we lose our hope, God always will be there for us. But if we don't recognize his presence, if we don't ask for help, it becomes a little bit more difficult, that relationship. If you don't recognize that God is already there with you, within you, then it just makes much more easy when we acknowledge all of this beauty that we already have in us. And going back to the trauma, when we are into that trauma stage, what happens is that disconnection from everything that links us to God, to life, to things that keep us alive.
Amongst the many services that Marcela offers, she offers trauma healing. I asked her, what can a potential client expect from this service, as well as what is something they can begin to do now to start the journey of healing?
I believe the first step in any journey is acknowledge there is something there that you would like to find some peace within, find the answers. And this is exactly how I can help, because I can only help anyone if they trust, first of all, in our relationship. Yeah, because I'm not here to waste my time. I am here to be able to serve. So important for me, first of all, trust. Even if you are a healer, for me, it doesn't matter. Because I don't see people from their titles. I don't see people from their wallet. I don't see people from their gender. I work with people when I connect with their soul. And when that link happens and I have the permission to connect with them and be able to access things that is going to be able to allow both of us to have some clarity, yeah, because within the session, maybe we're going to be talking about things that has been there totally on their unconscious. Yeah, an example, and this is a very, I'm trying to think about something that I can share. Okay, so this is specifically a person, of course I never will say names, but this is specifically a person, woman, 47 years old, yeah, and when she came into the session, the main thing was, I don't love myself. Okay, why don't love yourself? Oh, I just don't trust a man anymore. And this is all that she gave me. So I was like, okay, fine. So as I connected with her, yeah, what I had access was that she actually had been raped since she was a child. And as we was discussing the situation and she started to open up because we was building the trust, yeah, she basically mentioned, yes, I have been raped by my stepfather, and my mom, when she have realized, she actually have not believed on me, and I used to be creative, I used to write lots of things, and she discovered one of my journals, and She laughed at me. She laughed at my feelings. She hadn't believed on me. And then, it turns out that within the session, we have uncovered things, and she had access to a memory that she literally had blanked out. She was totally in denial. And she had access to a memory when she was 10 years old. Her cousin literally just said to us, to her, at grandma's house, I'm gonna show you what sex is. And he literally had a non-consent relationship there at that moment, and just left her on the carpet, and grandma was downstairs. She didn't know nothing, and she was basically all of these years without being able to access this specific memory, where no one would have believed in her. She suffered in silence. So digging more, she had other situations within her life that was related to toxic relationships, not being able to relate to men, not feeling confident as a woman, and always repeating those toxic patterns relationship. So we had to heal all of these wounded selves, every single one, and there was at least 4 that we had to revisit. We had to give the love, we had to give the compassion, we had to understand certain lessons that was linked to that. Towards the end of the session, she was smiling. She was so grateful for being able to finally understand what was going on wrong, and it was never about her. It was never her fault. Yes, she had a couple of contributions, but the majority of the contribution was because she didn't know the truth. So when she tried to stand up for herself, she always was going back into the position that, oh, it must be my fault. I always have only this type of relationship. So whatever is familiar to us is slightly difficult for we be able to accept that, yes, there is something better. I deserve better. So this is why for me, and people come to work with me, they say, oh, I have seen many therapists before, counseling, psychologists, and I never had quickly, I would say results. And these results, they are lasting results. And all I do is I just make myself present. I just allow, whatever my team, when I say my team, my spiritual team would like me to have access, and then how I can be a best service for that person, because every single person is very different. And yes, if you look on my website, I have many tools there within my box. But do I use all of these tools? It will depend of how much the client will need from me in terms of support. As I said, everybody's different. Everybody will react in a different way. Everybody will have a different timing for the healing. And this is why sometimes one session is enough, because they need time for integrate. They found their answers, they're feeling confident, and they need that time to be able to process and be able to step into that new identity.
If you are interested in Marcela Onyx services, or you would like to find out more information, here are ways you can contact Marcela and get more information about her and her services.
Website, marcelaonyx.com, and I am all over social media, Marcela Onyx too. And soon I also will be launching my podcast, so it's going to be called Shift the Choices, Laughter Lifts. So you can listen to my voice, you can watch me on YouTube.
That is all the time we have for you today on this episode of Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. I want to thank our guest, Marcela Onyx, for sharing her journey with us. And of course, you, the audience, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.